Welcome to All Right in Sin City, a podcast about writers and writing in the Windsor-Detroit region. Your podcasters today are
Sarah Jarvis, former bookseller, publishing rep, and literary festival chair.
Kim Conklin, Windsor-based writer and filmmaker.
and me, Irene Moore Davis, author, educator, and local historian.
On today's podcast, we're bringing you a live recording of a reading last fall by Benedek Totth, author of Dead Heat. It's a book that has received a lot of positive reviews by major publications, but fair warning to the faint of heart, it's a book for fans of dark, graphic literature. Totth studied American literature and now works as an editor and translator in Budapest. His translations into Hungarian include works by Stephen King, Cormac McCarthy, and Hunter S. Thompson. The event will be introduced by Daniel Wells, publisher at Biblioasis Press, and Vanessa Stauffer, managing editor, conducts a brief interview after the reading. Now, here's a live recording of the reading of Dead Heat.
So hello and welcome to Biblioasis. For those few of you here, and there are a few new faces who don't know me, my name is Dan Wells, and I'm the publisher at the press, and it's my pleasure to introduce Benedek Totth and his book Dead Heat to you tonight. For those here who have followed Biblioasis as a publisher over the years, you will know how essential translation has been to the press since its inception. Our second and third books were translations from Goran Simic's Serbian, and in poetry and prose explored the horrors of the Bosnian War. Both remain for me among the most important books we've done here at the press. They were our first work with translated literature before we'd even thought of establishing a series. And we learned a lot about the particular pleasures and perils of this kind of book. But also how essential it is in a world that even 14 years ago seemed to be closing in on itself. Publishing voices from around the world seemed one of the ways we as publishers could fight against insularity. And I feel that the work we've done, bringing important voices in translation into English, both within Canada and its official languages, and from outside of it, remains one of the things I'm most proud of what we've really accomplished here at the press. So Benedek Totth's Dead Heat, which we're launching here tonight, is the 28th title in Biblioasis's International Translation Series, which means, including Goran Simic's first two titles, it's our 30th translation at the press. It is, like the best of our books, many things at once. It's a darkly taut exploration of a lost generation, the first Hungarian generation to grow up under neither Nazism or communism. It's a painfully real coming-of-age story. It's an undeniable page-turner. And like the best books, it takes risks and chances. And it's unafraid to make readers uncomfortable in its pursuit of many things. I think one of the best reviews of this book, it compared it to Bret Easton Ellis, which when you read it doesn't actually seem entirely apt, and Train Spotting, which makes a little more sense. But the book comparison that it made the most sense to me was when it was compared to William Golding's Lord of the Flies, which I think opened the book up to me in a way. And though I pitched it maybe couple weeks ago when I was in London to the Irvin Welsh, he wrote Train Spotting. I pitched it to that editor as sort of a Central European Train Spotting. I really think the Golding sort of comparison is much more apt. It's really a story, the youth that are being discussed in this book could have been sort of lost on some sort of remote island. I mean, they're that isolated. They're that far away from adult supervision and guidance. They're really having to make their own way in a world that doesn't really care about them. And I think it's one of the more powerful books we've published, not only as part of the translation series, but here at the press. And it's an immense pleasure, I think, to bring it out into English. I think it's also, as a translation, perhaps the best book we've ever done here. Idiko Nomi Nagy's rendition of Benedek's Hungarian is incredible. And what makes this more amazing is that the book's language is propelled by a fast-paced slang, which I think is captured pitch perfectly. There are translations which read as translations. We've all experienced that, and it's not always a very good thing. This is not one of them, and I think that Benedek, who is also a translator of many writers, from Cormac McCarthy, Stephen King, and we were just talking over dinner about a wonderful British writer, Max Porter, is a new one he's working on. Very, very wide range that you're translating. Those writers are not at all one alike the other. I think Benedek would know how hard it is to sort of pull that off. And what I'm most proud of with this book is that it is a work of translation, but I think it reads it very much as a work of English literature, and I think that's a thing to celebrate. So, without further ado, please help me welcome Benedek Totth to read tonight in Day.
Thank you very much. I'm going to read a few pages of the book. Can you hear? Okay. I tried to do my best. As you know, English is not my first language, but just the second. But I try to act as a English-speaking person. Okay. I forgot the page. I'm sorry. And yeah, here's. And when I finish with English, I just
Maybe we will translate, just to be safe.
okay. Thanks. I will read just a few, just a paragraph in Hungarian, just just get the sound of the Hungarian language.
So we'll try that.
Actually, I've read almost the whole English translation, and to tell you the truth, I feel that it's better than the Hungarian, which is a great. I hope it's a great compliment, and I will tell Idiko that she's done an amazing translation. So I'm just really taken back. Okay, the chapter's title is Ask. I'm not sure that this part will explain the meaning, but it's kind of a pun. But you have to read the whole chapter to know to know the answer for the title. Okay. Some douchebag leans on the doorbell for the fourth time while I shoot boy in the head with the silenced gun. It produces a large, even hole at the back of his head. The blood shoots high up into the air like a geyser. Bone splinters fly, bits of brain splatter on the wall and slide down slowly towards the floor. It's a dick move to off someone from the back, especially if it's your buddy. But if I hadn't killed him, he would have finished me off without even thinking. I peek cautiously through the doorway. Duck is huddled in the next room behind the cabinet. It would be a hassle to stalk him from this angle, so I decide to wait till he comes out. I flatten myself against the wall and squat down, so if he steps out, I can get behind him while also keeping an eye on the corridor. I don't have to wait long. I hear Ducky stepping towards the door. He peeks out. I'm lucky he doesn't notice me, and starts off in the other direction. I put my gun away, pull out my serrated hunting knife, tiptoe behind him, and cut his throat from ear to ear. The skin splits. The mangled cartilage crackles. The dark red blood projectile spraying from the arteries coats both walls of the corridor. I think only Otto is still alive. He's hiding somewhere upstairs, but I find him and finish him. He's for sure scared shitless. I gotta exploit that. The easiest time to get them is when they are scared shitless. I can smell the fear. It's no wonder I'm so bummed at this game. Duck is swearing his head off, naturally, because he got off about half a minute ago, and he gets reborn at the far end of the course and has to run through the whole high-rise building to get his revenge. If he had patience, he could hide until someone else gets killed, because something got messed up in the settings, and everyone resurrects in the same place. But he's got no patience for this strategy. These days we don't play hockey games at all anymore. Instead we play Bulletstorm, Zombie U, Borderlands, Fear and Half-Life. And on the weekends, when there's no swim meet, we get down to a serious GTA party. I guess everyone's bored of jerking off. Plus it's better if you don't pop all your jocks pistols in the middle of the competition season anyway. It's kind of an ancient superstition, and all the great stars live by it. Some doc came to our school recently to give us a sex ed talk, and said that jerking off isn't harmful if we don't overdo it. I shouted that it's totally like a weed then, but he wasn't up for laughs. Meanwhile, the asshole at the door is leaning on the buzzer again. I guess he's not gonna budge. An idiot can see that there's someone home. I managed to hide myself pretty well, so I take my headset off, stand and walk over to the window. An unfamiliar car is parked outside. I tell Ducky someone's here, but boy is being massacred just then, so he can't hear anything from the rattle of machine gun fire, the explosions, and the screams. I sit back down and write to him on chat. Just for kicks, I write, "The cops are here, mofo." But boy is being reborn in the meantime and rolls a hand grenade under me. Ducky writes back telling me to fuck them up. I write back to him, they are here, dumbass. Ducky looks up from the monitor, but I can tell from his face that he still doesn't get it. He turns towards me, and the right side of his face is tinted bluish-gray from the glow of the screen. I shrug. Ducky takes off his headset and tosses angrily on the table. Then stands up, walks to the window, and looks out. "Those are cops," he says, turning back. "I don't know," I answer. "But they've been pressing the doorbell for about 10 minutes now." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I thought you heard," I say, and shoot someone with a soda shotgun. "I didn't fucking hear." Ducky grumbles and sits back in front of the console. I'm not freaking out or anything, but I think it would be dumb as hell not to go downstairs, because if they really are the cops and we don't let them in, they're gonna call a SWAT team, and those dudes don't fuck around. They just kick the door in on you. "Go down already," Ducky says, gaping at the monitor and shooting a bazooka. It looks to me like he landed a direct hit to the transformer station where Otto was hiding. "Down where?" I ask, decapitating an uniformed guard with an axe. "To see the cops," he says without batting an eye, as he tosses a hand grenade into the schoolyard. "What for?" I ask, and decide I'm not getting dragged into this. "I need some time," Ducky says, "to clean up," he adds, and takes down a terrorist from one of the rooftops. That's pretty convincing excuse. If he gets busted, so do we. "And what should I tell them?" "Depends on what they ask," he says, and when I just keep staring at him stupidly, he adds, "You're charming as fuck." "You'll think of something." They ring the bell again. Mozart, or Vivaldi, or Bach. Ducky doesn't move to answer the door, but in the meantime, holding a chainsaw, he assaults the armed man guarding the base. I don't say anything. I just stand up, then start towards the stairs. "You're a fucking prince, man." Ducky grins after me. "Thanks." If I had a weapon on me, I mean a real weapon, I would kill him. I step out of the room, walk along the hall, and go down the stairs. I stop at the front door. Maybe they really are cops, but I doubt that they would be looking for me at Ducky's. I do a mental calculation. It's been 3 days since I got high, which is pretty weird, but I'm real fucking happy about it right now. I pack my pockets, take out the baggie, and put it in a vase in the foyer. I delete Vicky's nudes from my phone. I look through the peephole. An unshaven cop-like dude with a stony expression stands at the door with a chick who's got brown eyes, freckles, and wavy red hair. She looks pretty hot. She reminds me of the actress I saw in a pool table scene all night. She took off her panties, so she would have something to hold her hair back with. Meanwhile, 2 losers kept drooling and trying to steal looks under her dress. I step back to the hall mirror for a sec, fix my hair, and then open the door. "Good afternoon," the man says. then pulls something out of his pocket, maybe a police badge, pushes it in my face and adds, Lieutenant Farrago. Then he nods towards the babe, my partner, Detective Sass. I introduce myself. They ask me to repeat my name. I do. We're looking for Lajos Kovács, the guy says. Then, since I'm not saying a thing, he adds for emphasis, regarding an urgent matter. I have only ever seen real detectives on TV before, and once they came to our school to demo so-called designer drugs and explain their harmful effects, but those two were clowns. Someone mixed some shit in their coffee during recess, and it made them so hyper that they sailed through the lecture they planned for 40 minutes in 10, and then pissed off. Are you his son? Well, yes, I blurt. Then, quickly correct myself. Actually, no, I'm his friend. The two cops eye me suspiciously. My hands are sweating again. I mean, his son's friend. May we see some ID? The babe cop says. I've only got my student ID with me, I say, and reach into my pocket. I fill a small plastic bag next to my student card. I didn't take out all the dope after all. That will be fine too, the dude says, and snatches the ID from my hand. A tiny piece of weed sticks to the plastic card by my name. He looks at it, then tries to blow it off, but it doesn't work, so he forced to clean it with his finger. Reads out my name. Meanwhile, I'm looking to the chick and nodding enthusiastically. Please tell Mr. Kovács that we'd like to talk to him. He's not home, I say. He's not present in the building at this time? Oh man, this cop lingo, I totally wagged. Who the hell talks like that? No, I say, he's away on a trip. Wife? The chick cop asks. I don't have a wife, I blurt out, but they're totally not down with my sense of humor and start wrinkling their foreheads at the same time, so I tone it down. His wife is not at home either. Do you know where we might find her? Unfortunately, no, I answer. But I don't think she's traveling, I add. She's just not home right now. I don't have any better ideas. I guess she's gone shopping, maybe for a manicure, or to the hairdresser, massage, or she's at the gym. Fine, we understand, the dude waves me off. Or the plastic surgeon, it occurs to me. I suppose she's got to take those huge knockers to get service pretty regularly. Thank you, the chick cop says. She's got that serious expression, even though she seems like a pretty cool person. Maybe she smiles more when she's not on duty. Then there's a loud bang upstairs. One of those S-heads cranked up the volume to max. The babe cop grabs her holster and automatically steps back. I automatically step back. What was that? She asks. FPS, I blurt out. She looks at me puzzled. A shooting game, I sputter. I can see she still doesn't get it. I'm freaking out that she's gonna shoot me with her service gun. Upstairs, a round of machine gun fire rattles, then there's a death rattle, followed by someone launching a bazooka, then shrieks and snorts of laughter. The babe cop finally catches on. I exhale. Which member of the Kovács family is present at home at this time? The prick cop asks. Ducky, I say, one of the kids. Would you go get him? The chick said. We need to speak with him. On what business? I ask, trying to stall for time. Don't be a wise son, the prick cop threatens. Sure, now he's getting all superior on me. If he didn't have a gun, I would ask him since when I'm his son. Could you get him, please? The chick doesn't lose her temper. Will you wait outside or do you want to come in? I ask. I'm starting to run out of ideas and plus I don't feel much like stalling anymore either. We'll wait, the guy answers. Hop to it, son. I have no fucking clue what in God's hairy-ass duck has been doing all this time. But I'm not finding out either, because I start upstairs. I see him at the top landing. The soundtrack of Apocalypse Now is blaring from the stereo, a track when Bill Kilgore's copter attacks the Vietnamese village. Well, what's going on? Ducky asks. They're waiting down at the door. Who? The cops. Fucking hell. They want to talk to your old man. Fucking hell. I told them he was away on a trip. He's not. I had to tell them something. Never mind, Ducky says, shrugging. This Wagner is fucking late, huh? He winks at me, then starts towards the entrance. Thank you. Thank you. And the scene goes on and on for a few pages more. So I don't know if you have any questions, we can have this question answer session. But if you don't, I read just a few sentences in the Hungarian. This same part, okay? If you like. Yeah. The Hungarian sounds like this. Már vagy negyedszer fekszik rá valami köcsög a csengőre, amikor fejbe lövöm bóját egy hangtompítós pisztollyal. Nagy szabályos lyuk keletkezik a tarkóján. A vér gejzírként lövel a magasba, csontszilánkok repkednek, agyvelő fröccsen a falra és csorog lassan a padló felé. So that's translators, you know.
Yeah, we'll have a conversation now.
Okay.
Hey everyone, my name is Vanessa Stoffer. I'm the managing editor at Biblioasis and the resident Dead Heat superfan. So I'm very delighted to be here with Benedek tonight. And so we thought we would just have a bit of a conversation about this book. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's great. All right.
I'm ready. I hope.
So as you heard, this is a book that does not shy away from graphic content. And one of the things that I was really surprised to hear when we were sort of beginning our marketing of this book was learning from Stephen Hennigan that this is a book that has been embraced amongst young readers, taught in high school.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was quite surprising for me as well. Actually, before the Hungarian edition was published, I was when the publishing house decided that they're gonna publish the book, I was really scared shitless as the guys, because I realized that it's gonna be out there somewhere in the world and people will read it. So it's really terrifying this moment when I realized that, and I thought that okay, it's about young people like teenagers and some teenagers might think that it's about them or him or her or whatever, and will read the book and maybe they will misunderstand the things that are in, and I was really scared. So I thought that somehow the publisher should indicate that it's not for not for children, or not for young readers, not a YA novel, not a young adult novel.
It's not an instructional manual.
Yeah. Sure. Yes, sure. But then later I realized that would have been a really excellent marketing strategy, put some parental don't read this at home.
We did research that. We wanted to find out if it had been banned anywhere, and then we were very disappointed to find out that not yet. But maybe we can get it banned.
Be a good publisher. Yeah. I'm waiting for that. No, I think it's not banned because, that's kind of really far away from the book, but this topic. But I think it's not banned because literature is not that. I mean, it's important for us. One of the most important things for us, literature. But as in general, literature is not that important anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Few thousand people read the book and then they read the next one, and there's no effect, and no book has that kind of effect anymore. Okay, there are some books that has real impact, like whatever Harry Potter and the Pope just said that you don't have to, you mustn't read the book, and everyone just starts to read that's crazy. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good idea.
That's aimed at the top. So not it wasn't what's that? Banned. No, it wasn't banned anywhere in Hungary. Not yet.
I was very surprised the way that we work with books, especially translation. We very often we know that, or Dan will tell me, here's this book that we're going to publish, and so figure out how to sell it before I've seen the book. And so I remember finding out, okay, we have this book, it's going to be a brilliant translation, this is the title, this is the author, it's been published in France to rave reviews, and so my task was then to figure out marketing materials for the book that I had not yet read. So what I did immediately, of course, is go to Google Translate to find the French reviews. And so I start reading the French reviews of this book, and I become terrified because the reviewers, this is my favorite of the French reviews. And the reviewer calls it a brilliant novel, but brilliant like a black diamond, and cursed. So you don't want to hold it. A tale that never lets you go, no matter how much repugnance you may feel. And so this is late December, and the days are shorter and darker. I'm in the office late at night, just being terrified of this book. And so the final manuscript comes in, and I sit down on Christmas Eve, naturally, to read it. And I discovered that it is indeed a graphic and a violent book. And I am a terrible wimp about that kind of thing. But I couldn't put this book down. And so I started thinking about the difference between, horror movies and violence on television and violence in books, and why that's different for me as a reader. And so, kind of thinking about this talk tonight, I started thinking about the history of violence and the kind of tradition of violence in literature. And so I thought about Edgar Allan Poe, as we all do. And I thought about his story. If any of you know his story, The Imp of the Perverse, which I remember learning about when I was maybe 16 years old, and I just thought this was a hilarious phrase, The Imp of the Perverse. So I looked it up tonight to try to remember, what is this thing? So Poe talked about this kind of tendency towards violence and a kind of will towards violence and the value of it, why he wanted it in literature. And he describes it like this. We stand upon the brink of a precipice. We peer into the abyss. We grow sick and dizzy. Our first impulse is to shrink from the danger. Unaccountably, we remain. By slow degrees, our sickness and dizziness and horror become merged in a cloud of unnameable feeling. By gradations still imperceptible, this cloud assumes a shape far more terrible than any genius or demon of a tale, and yet it is but a thought. It is merely the idea of what would be our sensations during the sweeping precipitancy of a fall from such a height. And what he's really talking about is kind of existential freedom, right? Standing on the ledge and going, well, I could throw myself off of this. And we've been talking about this since a really wonderful introduction of Benedek's book last night at Literati in Ann Arbor. And the introducer said, this is a book that doesn't start with why, but it starts with why not. What if these kids behave this way? Because they do. So this is all a long way of asking you about you, translator Bret Easton Ellis, translator of Cormac McCarthy, of the Hunger Games, right? Yeah, books with lots of violent content, and thinking about what role does violence play for you in literature?
Yeah, good question. Actually, I don't know if you have this experience something like this, but there were in my life there were few books that I've read and it has a physical effect on me.
Yeah.
You know, when you read a sentence like made of the letters like the alphabet, and still it has kind of it makes your head dizzy or your stomach just, and I think somehow these physicalness of the words just that's what I was looking for. I don't know why, and don't ask me that because I'm not sure about my motivation, and I'm not sure about the motivation of my characters. But somehow I felt it. For example, you mentioned Cormac McCarthy, and I've translated The Crossing, which is I think one of his best novels, and I don't want to spoil if you haven't read that, but there is a scene when the guy takes the wolf back to Mexico, and there's this really horrible scene, a dogfight scene, and when I read that, I recalled that feeling that it took me like away, like I was out of my body, like it's so intense, the whole thing, and still so. The power of language or the power of words. That's what I was looking for, I guess. I'm not sure that I could, I can't decide whether I managed to reach that level. I mean, McCarthy is a genius, of course, but I don't mean to compare myself to his work or my novel to his works, but yeah, the violence in text, that means something like this to me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I get it.
I'm sort of taking the reader out of an intellectual space,
well,
into
actually,
the physical and the emotional.
To tell you the truth, I was not thinking. I wasn't thinking while I was writing. It took me 10 years to finish the novel. It never occurred to me that it's gonna be read.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking. and I think it's hard to. That's why it's so hard to write the second novel, or I guess the third, or whatever, because you have to really forget about your readers.
Yeah.
You really have to shut the word out, and you have really just concentrate on the text, on the work you're doing. You don't really, you spoil the whole thing if you think about your readers' responses. Yeah. So the first novel, it's simple because there are you have no readers.
Read this.
And before, for me it was especially easy because I haven't published a single short story, so I haven't published anything before the novel in journals. In Hungary, it's usually people start to publish their shorter texts in journals, literary journals, and then they build up some kind of reputation, and then they might write a novel or a short story collection. It's published by a publishing house. So that's the usual way of what I spent my years translating English and American novels. I didn't have time for writing, but I learned a lot. You can learn a lot from translating. Yeah.
One of my favorite sort of things to remember as a writer is the line, no surprise for the reader, no surprise for the writer, no surprise for the reader. The idea that if the writer's not surprised by what's happening, then the reader won't be, because the writer will have led them to this point. Were you ever terrified of this book? In the way the reviewers are going, oh God, this is so terrifying.
Yeah.
But were you scared?
Sure.
Were you thinking, I can't say that. I can't write that.
Yeah, that's another thing that. So when you really have a voice and you really are in a story of yours that you write, it's kind of an experience and a kind of out of body experience. Like it's not you, but still it's you, of course. Your body moves or your fingers typing the thing, but still, it was like after some writing sessions I was just really scared. and my publisher and the Hungarian publisher told me that, okay, you seem to be like okay, and until you can keep your mind sane, like seemingly you are sane, there's no problem. But be careful. No, I don't know. Maybe I was always this kind of guy who just tried to avoid conflicts, and I try to. I don't really feel good when I'm in a conflict. There are some guys who really love to be in a conflict, and I'm the other way line. I run away from all conflicts. But when you write, you don't have anyone to argue with. It's just you and the sheet or the document. So that might be another explanation for writing so violent way or so aggressive. I don't know.
I have so many questions, but does anybody else? Carl?
Yeah. Do you think, this is a question for both of you, you were talking earlier about audience reception in France, and how the reviewers were ambivalent towards the book. They love it, but they hate it. They're terrified, but they're admiring it at the same time. So, do you think different countries receive this kind of material in different ways? So in Hungary, maybe there's a higher level of interest in the topic area that you're writing about. France, maybe so, maybe less so in other countries. What's your opinion on that?
I think the most important difference between the Hungarian reception and the French is that this novel in Hungary was quite strange, because it's not derived from the Hungarian literary tradition. And that's for the simple reason that I was translating and reading American and English literature. Mm-hmm. So it's rather my inspiration was rather that, not Hungarian literature. I read I read Hungarian literature, contemporary as well, but I'm not well read in Hungarian literature. Mm-hmm. So So I think that some reviewers said that it's an American novel. I don't know what they mean about that, but it's written in a Hungarian language. So it was strange, and people. I think that's why they liked it, even if it's not a perfect novel. But they really liked it because it was new and a new voice that was not used in the Hungarian language before, and I didn't know that when I was writing. So. And in France, I'm not sure. Maybe the translation. I know the translation was excellent, and it helped. The reception went well, and maybe I don't know. I don't know the reason for the success there. I don't know.
I'm just thinking how a Canadian audience as opposed to a U.S. audience as opposed to maybe a Mexican one.
Yeah.
How would they all respond to this kind of material? And there may be different attitudes.
Yeah,
maybe Japanese,
I'm really curious about that.
Yeah.
I have no answer
we
yet.
can't
Maybe in a year we can.
I just thought maybe you had an angle on it since you're a translator and you're already reading the reviews. So anyway, just a curiosity.
I'm really interested in that idea of the. I mean, it's always just deeply fascinating to me as somebody who studied American literature, and I have a very strong sense of what is meant by the American novel, the sort of history of the form, and I know all of the academic arguments, and I also know all the reasons that they're kind of silly. But I'm interested to hear you say that you're not really sure what they mean by it not. Or is it that you don't know what they mean when they say it's American, or that you're not sure what they mean when they describe the Hungarian literary tradition? Like, is there a kind of general consensus about what is a Hungarian novel?
Yeah, there's no such thing.
No such thing. It's like a Canadian novel, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think what they mean is that there's maybe they for example Chuck Palahniuk, whom I've translated 2 of his novels, and Brad Easton Ellis and Carver. They are very famous in Hungary as well, and those who only read in Hungarian read those books that are translated into Hungarian from the English. So English or American literature means only for them only those that are translated. That's simple. And since Alice is very famous in Hungary, maybe they just found similarities, and that's why they put the stamp on it. Okay, it's kind of American thing.
I wondered if there was a nationalist element to that argument, the Hungarian argument, versus when they say this is an American novel, versus whether there's one of the interesting things about this book as well is these kids are very immersed in American culture, American pop music, everything else. Sort of there's this globalizing element that runs through this book.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wondered if, over in Canada there can be a nationalist argument, right? A lot of independent publishers began as almost nationalist. Literature was a nationalist enterprise. I don't know if that exists in Hungary, and I don't know if that might be part of the reason why they don't exactly know how to place you.
Well, I don't know. There is some tendencies towards making Hungarian literature great again. I don't want to make it a joke about this, but well, it's really. I don't want to give a speech about Hungarian literary traditions, but there's two huge. So there are two most important traditions are called the urbanist and the country writer. This opposition of the urban writers and the countryside writers kind of thing. And it's still this debate is still on, but the strange thing that it's real conservative reviewers like this book because they read it. Okay, that's how American culture poisons. So there might be a reason for good reviews from the right-wing reviewers, but yeah, that's a reading. I can do that. I cannot do with this anything. So that's something. The book is out there. They read it and they have their opinion. I can't fight against it. Yeah, it's a possible reading. There were some decisions I made, but really simple decisions. When I realized that I was writing about these teenagers for years, and I had some pages, 100 pages of the novel, and still I didn't know anything about their parents, I realized that wow, that's good. I have to stick to that. So and then I decided that okay, there were no parental figures, no real parental figures in the novel. That's I think that's kind of a satirical thing to exaggerate these things. Like you've read the book, so you know that there is no scene in a school. Maybe there's one scene when the guy falls asleep in a math class or something, but there's no, and they are attending school. They are high school students, but not a single thing about school in the book. There's no description of classes or whatever. That's another thing that I kind of that was intentional. There are a few things like this, but these are very simple choices or very simple decisions, and if they are more than they are, they become more or have more meanings. That's good. But you can decide on sitting at the table that okay, I can't write like that. Okay, that's okay. Now I put this because readers will think that it's because of that. So that's not the way I work. I just write whatever comes and then rewrite. But
Thanks for joining us. Look for more episodes of All Right in Sin City wherever you listen to podcasts, or check out our website, allrightinsincity.com. For information and announcements of new podcasts, sign up to our email list or follow us on Facebook and Twitter.